In the one day and change before Election Day, a day we look forward to around here so very much. In this final stretch, there is new polling in some of the closest and most interesting races in the country. On the Senate side, the latest poll in Nevada has Sharon Engel leading by 2 points. Nate Silver of the 538 blog at the New York Times giving Sharon Engel an 82% chance overall of winning this race. The latest poll in Pennsylvania showing Pat Toomey up over Democrat Joe Sestak, also by 2. Nate giving the Republican in Pennsylvania a 92% chance of winning that one. In Illinois, the latest poll putting the Democrat Alexei Giannoulias ahead by between 2 and 3 points. But Nate tipping the possibility of a Republican winning that seat in Illinois at 68%. In Washington, the Democratic incumbent Patty Murray is leading by between 2 and 3 points in the latest poll. Nate predicting that the chance of a Democratic win, Patty Murray holding on at 81%. State by state, we are also seeing some interesting results. In New Hampshire, the Republican Kelly Ayotte is favored in the Senate race, but the Democratic incumbent John Lynch is favored in the governor's race. Similarly, in Connecticut, where the Democrat is way ahead for Senate, the Republican for governor Tom Foley in a very tight race, only 2 points ahead of Democrat Dan Malloy in the latest poll. Nate Silver tipping that race to the Democrat with an 84% chance. There are 2 races for governor in which an independent candidate is making a strong and interesting showing. In Minnesota, the independent polling at 15%, which in all likelihood will give the Democrat, former Senator Mark Dayton, the win. That's according to Nate Silver. In Maine, the independent polling at 28%. 28! A close race that still makes the Republican Paul LePage the favorite in Maine. In Ohio, the race for governor, which includes Republican Congressman John Kasich, that race is now incredibly close, 1 or 2 points, depending on which poll you happen to consult, one of the most hotly watched races in the country there in terms of the governors. That said, if you want to see not close in any way whatsoever, check out, this is amazing, check out the top of the ticket races in New York State. Both Senate seats and the governor's race are up in New York. Look at these margins. Andrew Cuomo now leading Carl Palladino by 25 points. Kirsten Gillibrand up by 20 in the race for Hillary Clinton's old Senate seat. And Chuck Schumer favored to win re-election by, count 'em, 32 points. Joining us now is MSNBC political analyst and senior political editor at The Huffington Post, my friend Howard Feynman. Howard, thanks very much for being here.
Hi, Rachel.
I asked Gene earlier if there are bellwether races in these elections. Are there races that explain what's going on in the country right now better than others? Or is the important thing here the aggregate number of seats won and lost?
Well, I think the aggregate number is probably going to be important because it's going to be big. In talking to some Democratic consultants over the last 12 hours, I think they're privately gloomier than they are in public. On the House number for sure, and if it's a big enough wave in the House, that means it might carry some of the Senate races that even Nate Silver's fine mathematics don't account for. So that's important, but you always have to look at Ohio, Rachel. I think the whole world of politics still spins around Ohio. Florida, yes, but it was Richard Nixon who first said it's all about Ohio, and it still is. And that's why President Barack Obama was in Ohio today, because if the Democrats can somehow hold on to the governor's seat in Ohio, it will break up what otherwise, Rachel, is going to be an uninterrupted chain probably of Republican governors stretching all the way from New Jersey on the Atlantic all the way up through the industrial Midwest, through Pennsylvania. Indiana's already in Republican hands, perhaps Illinois, Michigan, it looks like for sure, probably Wisconsin, not Minnesota, as you said, but also Iowa, the entire Big Ten, if you will. And that's a tremendous blow for the Democrats, not only this time around, but in 2012 after redistricting in those states.
The Ohio race, as you mentioned, it not only is important, but it is recognized as important. President Obama there today, I think he's made at least 12 trips to Ohio since taking office. Is that race there, that governor's race, so close? Is that the kind of battle that shows the relative strength of the two parties more than it does the individual candidates?
Yeah, I think it's about the parties there. Although if the Republicans win, John Kasich, the candidate who is a former member of Congress, is going to be a formidable political player. I don't think he's going to be one of the few Republican governors who won't run for president, I think. But I think he's a very active politician. He's very close to a lot of national Republicans. He's very close to money people. He worked on Wall Street, as you know, and as the Democrats have been pointing out. He's got the money and he's got the moves, and I think he will make life miserable for Democrats in Ohio if he gets the chance.
Howard, looking ahead to potential governorship from Kasich if he wins that race, people like Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania, people like Dan Coates in Indiana, some of these people who are not just old establishment Republicans, but old establishment, really corporate Republicans. Are there going to be ongoing fights between those types of Republicans and the Tea Party folks that led this sort of insurgency this year?
Oh, I think without question. A couple things. These Republicans who are going to win a lot of governorships better enjoy it on election night, because it's going to be miserable after that, because they're not going to get any more federal money out of the stimulus program, et cetera. They're going to have to be cutting budgets ferociously in their states, which is going to be very unpopular. They're going to try. Meanwhile, in the Congress, the new Tea Party senators are going to come up against the reality that there's going to have to be a vote in the spring, for example, to raise the debt limit again. Do they vote against it and thereby threaten, if not create, a government shutdown? Don't forget, Rachel, it was the government shutdown drama back in the 90s that turned a Republican victory, a sweeping Republican victory in 1994 against Bill Clinton and the Democrats, into the nightmare that helped get Bill Clinton reelected in 1996.
Howard Feineman, MSNBC political analyst, senior political editor at the Huffington Post. Thanks, Howard.
Thank you, Rachel.
Maybe some of you went to the rally to restore sanity and or fear in Washington yesterday. If you were there, you may have met our extra special correspondent. And to this moment, you may not know that you did. Our exclusive spooky reporting on that coming up.